come out and meet people face to face and see people that I connect with online all the time, so that's nice. And I get to hear your questions personally. I get to see you personally. And tonight I want to talk about the formula for health, which I wrote about in one of my books here, The Formula for Health. But basically, it's what I write about in all my books. It's the whole idea of no matter what type of diet you choose to eat, there's a formula that's going to keep you healthy, and I'm going to discuss that. Now, I got good news and bad news. The good news I have is I just saved a lot of money with Geico. I just joke about that, but guess what? I really did. But the real good news is I could tell by just looking at somebody if what they're doing is working and if they're healthy or not, and if they're going to be healthy in the future. After doing this for many, many years, I could just tell that. So that's good news because I can help people better that way. I got bad news as well. The bad news is I can tell by just looking at people if what they're doing is working for them and if they need to change or not change and so on. And from what I find by doing lectures face-to-face as opposed to behind the camera on the internet is people think they're doing well, but they're really not. Now, it can be quite deceiving because somebody could be doing a lot better than they were because maybe I didn't know them in the past. So if somebody comes to me and is overweight, well, maybe in the past they were very overweight and they're moving in the right direction. But that doesn't mean they're where they need to be. And when I ask people, well, how are you doing? And if they're just walking out of McDonald's and they tell me they're doing great, there's some disconnect there, unless they were just there to use the bathroom. And so I want to make this as simple as possible for people to make the transition. Eating a healthier diet does not have to take a lot of time, it does not have to be expensive, and it does not have to be boring. And so that's what I want you to understand. Now, I'm kind of preaching to the choir here because I believe everyone here is on a vegan diet or a vegetarian diet? No. Okay. Does everyone know what a vegan is here?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, you do.
The baby, mouths of babes.
A vegan is somebody that doesn't eat any animals or anything that comes from animals, if they don't talk to anyone who does. To clarify. Even though I am a vegan, I'm a little odd because I do talk to people that eat animals and carcasses and things like that, and I get a lot of information from them. But then there's a vegetarian diet. What is the lacto-vegetarian diet? Everyone know what that is?
Yes.
No? That means people that they don't eat animals, but they eat things like milk and cheese and things like that. Like a fake vegetarian. Yeah. Fake vegan, yeah. And then there's people that eat the standard American diet and they could care less. So there's all different aspects of the way people choose to eat. And there's many different types of diets out there today. And here's what's interesting. No matter what type of diet somebody's eating, they all seem to get results. And this can be confusing to some people. Because they say, I know somebody that eats a meat-based diet and they seem to be having results. I know somebody eats a vegan diet and they seem to have results. I know somebody eats a raw food diet and they seem to have results. Why do all these diets that are so different all seem to have results? Well, they all have something in common. And it's one of the keys to understanding your new health puzzle here. What they all have in common is they're leaving something out. Something that was contributing to whatever they wanted to overcome. The diet that's working for them, they're leaving it out. So if somebody wanted to lose weight, they're leaving out high-fat foods. If somebody wanted to get better from diabetes, they're leaving out high-sugar foods. All these different types out there, with diets out there, what they have in common is they're leaving something out. And that's very important to understand because we have to understand the concept that health doesn't begin with what we add to our diet or our lifestyle. It begins with what we eliminate. That's where health begins. Everyone say eliminate.
Eliminate.
Now say it with enthusiasm.
Eliminate.
Great, I hope you all do that on a regular basis. That's eliminate with enthusiasm. That's such an important part when it comes to this health puzzle. So as we understand this, and we have to make sure that yes, it's okay and important to add healthy foods. But when people come to me and say, what food can I eat to lose weight? Or what food can I eat to get better from cancer? Or what food can I eat to overcome this such and such disease? There's no magic food out there. One of the places I've learned a lot about what I do is Hippocrates Health Institute. And what they teach is food doesn't heal the body. The body heals itself when you give it what it was designed to have and not mess up with the process by giving it what it wasn't supposed to have. It's not difficult to be healthy. As a matter of fact, you have to work much harder to get sick than to stay healthy. You have to do a lot of work and mess up your body really bad to make your body get diseased the way people are diseased today. If you did nothing or ate very little, even if it's not the best food, you're going to be much better off than doing the standard American diet, getting stressed out, and doing what most people do today. The problem is when most people start not to feel well, what do? They run to their doctor because that's what they're trained to do. They run to their doctor and they ask their doctor, why don't I feel well? And their doctor's still in medical school. They don't teach them about nutrition or anything to do with diet. And the doctors just give them drugs and tell them, take these drugs and that can get you better from, exactly, feel better, but you're not getting better. And that creates a problem, and that's what I did. And I felt better, but then I created a whole bunch of, I don't call them side effects because they're not side effects. I refer to them as direct effects because they directly affect you. And then they give you more drugs for those other effects from the original drugs. And that's what they keep doing. They're legal drug dealers. And that's what happens. And then people are it just gets worse and worse and worse. And we're going to talk about that in No Formula for Health. But I want you to be encouraged because no matter where you are, no matter how young or old you are, you can always improve in your health and you can always do better. So please understand, there's doctors that say things and it just doesn't work. When a doctor gives you a death sentence, they're only basing it on their track record. Somebody said to me once, Paul, my doctor had 6 months to live, what should I do? I said, find another doctor. Because they're only basing on that when every person they treated with that illness only survived 6 months. You don't want to go to a doctor that has that type of track record. There's no medical test or program out there that says you only have 6 months, or it doesn't even tell you how long. As a matter of fact, most people I know have outlived their doctor when they've been given an outcome like that. The average age of a doctor is not high up there, and if you go to most hospitals, most doctors are in front of the hospital smoking or going in the cafeteria and eating all that bad food and everything else. They're overweight and they're just not healthy. Why do we listen to an unhealthy smoker who has a low lifespan about what we should do for our health? Because that's what we're trained to do. And sometimes people don't listen to me, but I put a white coat on, then all of a sudden they listen to me. But that's what people do today. So we can change that. And do we need to change that? Well, if you're happy with what you're doing, there's no reason to change. If you feel good and you feel you can't do any better, there's no reason to change. Most people, or a lot of people, think that they're fine and they don't need to change. And some people say something dumb. They say, well, you had to change because you were sick, and I'm going to wait till I'm sick before I change, which is one of the most ludicrous things I've ever heard. Why wait till you're sick to change? Why not change now that you're healthy? And I don't come here to make people feel bad, but I want you to know the truth. And the truth is, most of us can do a lot better than what we're doing. And when people think they're eating healthy, and then I teach them about what true health is or what really unhealth is, sometimes they feel bad, and hopefully they don't go home and emotionally eat on those unhealthy foods that got them sick to begin with. But we can make a change. It's not just what we eat, it's when we eat and so on. And my own personal story that I'll briefly get into is I got diagnosed with inflammatory bowel disease at 19 years old. It's also known as ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease. It's inflammation of the colon. Anytime there's a disease with the letters at the end, itis, it means there's inflammation somewhere in the body. Arthritis, proctitis, pancreatitis, colitis, or anything like that. Inflammation is only one stage of only one disease. There's only one disease out there with many different stages. Inflammation is the latest stages of diseases. And after going back and forth to the doctor, and the doctor's not helping me get better, I decided the doctors don't have all the answers. They kept telling me diet had nothing to do with my condition. And I found that it had a lot to do with my condition. I also found out the doctors didn't know about the connection between diet and health. So I started to come to the conclusion, if I go to the doctor and do the opposite of what she says, this might work. So I started doing that, and it was helping me. And then I found out there was a connection between stress and my condition. And I would ask my doctor, was there any connection between stress and my condition? And he would tell me no. So I knew I had to reduce the stress in my life after she told me that. So the first thing I did to reduce the stress in my life was I eliminated my doctor. And right away I felt better. Now I want to clarify, since I am from New York, I didn't eliminate my doctor, I just stopped going to visit her. And I got better, and then I decided to move to West Palm Beach, Florida. and I learned what eating healthy was because I had never eaten a fresh fruit prior to living in Florida, because all the fruit that's shipped up to the cold places are picked unripe and they're not healthy. This is one of the reasons why people that eat a vegetarian diet aren't getting healthy, because they're eating food that is not raw, ripe, fresh, or organic, and it's creating a problem. So I got better again, and then I quit my job. I retired from my job in the office, got out in the world, and I wrote a book here called The Raw Life, where I interviewed people who have been eating this way for many, many years. And this was 20 years ago, or something, 25 years ago. And, well, actually, the book was written about 20 years ago. But after interviewing these people and still knowing the people today, some of those people are still thriving today. Dr. Fred Bishri, one of my best friends, is 89 years old, been eating a raw vegan diet for 60 years, and still thriving. But some of the people I interviewed in the book are dead. And they weren't thriving. They got sick and died of things like cancer and other things. It was a reality check. The raw food diet or a vegan diet or any of this is not a panacea. Just because we're eating a certain way doesn't guarantee we're not going to get disease, and it doesn't guarantee we're eating the best way. Because there's different things we can do about it. And I kept researching and learning and writing other books, and then I found out it's not just what we eat, but when we eat. And I found out after reading the world's greatest health book ever written, the book that has the oldest people that have survived. Does anyone know? I have a friend that's 100. He was 108 years old when he died in Phoenix. A good friend of mine. And he wasn't even a vegetarian or a vegan. But he ate frugally. He didn't overeat. He didn't eat late at night. He got exercise. He got enough sleep. He had joy in his life. He's 107 years old. Bernardo Palio, I think his name was. Bernardo Fernando, something like this. 107 years. Does anyone have a friend who's 107 years old? His daughter lived in Miami, and I interviewed him once on my website. I think at like 104, I interviewed him. Does anyone even know people 107-year-old? No. You do. Has anyone heard of people 107 years
Yes.
old? Well, You do? So I continue to seek people that lived older to find out what they were living to live successfully. And I read many books, and then I found books that people lived a really long time. Does anyone know how old the oldest person is now in the world?
400?
No,
400. What are you thinking?
In India, they talk about how some people are that old.
Does anyone living now?
100.
No. How the oldest person surviving right now?
112?
400. You know somebody 400 years old right
It's in
now?
Bible times.
I've heard.
Huh?
100? So 125?
Okay, probably around the 100 and teens is, I think, one of the oldest. And it's so funny because every time, you never hear about the second oldest person until the first oldest person dies. And then all of a sudden it's all over the news. Now this person is the second oldest person. So actually, there were people that lived to 400 years old in the Bible in times in the past.
In the
There were people that lived up to 900 years old.
Yes.
Is that possible? Well, there were people that did it. So what were their health secrets? Well, they had many. And from a diet standpoint, they ate what was in the Bible called Genesis 1:29, a diet that was based on fruits and vegetables. And what happens when they started eating animals? Their lifespan went from 900 years old all the way down to 100 years old, or even younger.
70, 50.
Yeah, and the more that they let these things that they shouldn't be in their body, their lifespan decreased. And there's scientific can back it up, because when you take healthy cells and you keep them clean in a healthy laboratory environment, they last a long time. But when you add filth to them and stress them out in it, they die very quickly. So there's more than enough scientific studies out there to show these things. There's the proof of people that have been living these ways. It all comes down to giving your body the best that we have to offer. And a lot of people don't think or know because they don't have the knowledge or the wisdom of what there is to offer. But if it comes in a bag, box, container, or can, it's not the best you can offer your body. Except if it's something like this. If it comes in a bag, box, or can, it's something that's not the best for your body. If it has to pass your car window to be considered food, it's not the best food for your body. If it wasn't considered food 100 years ago, it's not the best food for your body. So we have to think about these things. The ideal foods are the foods that have a life stage to it. A ripening stage, a freshness stage, and a rotting stage. That's what food is. And that's what you get when you get fruits and vegetables. then you take something like a Twinkie. You could have a Twinkie in the same bag from 20 years ago and it'll still look the same exact way today. It's not real food. And there's another way to tell what the food is best for us. Our Creator didn't make any mistakes when He created the food. The food looks like what it's good for. For example, celery looks like the bones of the body. The minerals in celery, like the bones in the body, it looks the same. A carrot, if you cut a carrot in half, it looks like you got two eyes looking at you. They're good for the eyes. How do we know that? We didn't have to learn that in school because carrots are good for the eyes because the food looks like what it's good for. What about a walnut? Think about that one. What do you think a walnut's good for? The brain. Walnuts are good for the brain. What about a Twinkie? What do you think that's good for?
Good for your fat.
It looks,
What's a
Good for
Twinkie?
your
it
fat.
looks like a coffin. Yeah, a coffin.
Coffin. He's from New York. Coffin.
Okay. Yes. So we have to understand that there's what?
Twinkie looks like what?
A coffin.
What food looks like in here? Okay. But we want to eat the foods that are best for us and ideal for us. And how do we find that out? Well, most people, from my experience, are not seeking to learn about health. This proves it, because nobody's here. If that was the truth, this room would be packed. But most people aren't here to learn about health. Most people are here to learn about disease. How many people in this room have never felt disease on one level or another? By the way, disease is another word for discomfort. How many people have never felt discomfort? Disease is another word for discomfort. And the main motivating factor for people coming to a lecture like this is to find out how to get rid of disease if you have it and how to avoid it if you don't. That's what inspires people to learn. How to get rid of it if you have it, and how to avoid it if you don't. Disease is what we want to learn and discover. So there's many factors to disease, but the main two factors from a diet standpoint are overeating and undersleeping. Or from a diet and health standpoint, it's overeating and undersleeping. The problem with disease, though, is, as I discussed earlier, is there's only one disease with many different stages. And if we identify disease at the beginning stages, we won't have to worry about it at the later stages. The problem is we don't know how to identify anything that's going on in our body because we're so miscommunication with what's going on with us today. So the key is to learn how to identify disease in the beginning stages. The two beginning stages of disease that most people suffer from today and will end up in a later stage of disease if you don't do anything about it is laziness and constipation. There's other words for these two things, but what it comes down to is laziness and constipation. These are the beginning signs of disease, and if you don't do anything about it, it's going to come back worse and worse and worse. In fact, I know people that are so lazy, they're happy they're constipated, so they don't got to get up and go to the bathroom.
Oh no.
That's how crazy it is in today's world. And I wish that was a joke, but I literally know people that tell me that. Oh, Paul, if I eat like you, I have to go to the bathroom all the time. Like, when's the last time you went to the bathroom? And they're like, oh, a week ago. And I'm like, and you think that's healthy? Because they say you are what it eat. I say, no, you are what comes out of you, and if it's not coming, or you are whatever, if it's not coming out of you, it's in you, and I'll leave it up to you to figure out what you are. It's not a good thing. So if we eat something, our body is supposed to take what it needs and get rid of the rest. That is when you know your body's working correctly. So the major two causes of these beginning signs of disease are overeating and undersleeping. Everyone say overeating and undersleeping.
Overeating and undersleeping.
Now say it with more enthusiasm.
Overeating and undersleeping.
Yes.
How long should you sleep?
I'm going to take questions in a little while, but you cannot do one without the other. If you're overeating, you are going to be undersleeping. Why? Because it takes the body more energy to digest food than any other function of the human body. And there's simply not enough time in a day to eat the standard American diet, the amount of food the average person thinks is healthy today, and get the proper amount of sleep that they need. Why is sleep so important? Because sleep is another word for healing. That's when healing takes place, during sleep. And if we sleep at the right time, and we don't eat before going to sleep, we're going to have the opportunity to let the body do what it was designed to do, heal itself. Why is sleeping so important? Because when you're sleeping, the body heals and cleans the blood. The blood is the key of keeping the body healthy, because you want to keep the blood clean. This is for the advanced stage of disease. Once the blood starts getting toxic, and toxic blood doesn't mean there's dirt in my blood, it means there's a lack of oxygen in my blood. And that happens by eating too much, eating too often, and eating too late, and not giving your body the right opportunity to recuperate from that and cleanse. So we need to make sure, how can we eat the food we need to eat, at the same time get the proper amount of sleep we need. We have to eat less. People are overeating. Well, why do people overeat? People overeat because the food they're eating is low quality. If you're eating food with the nutrients that it needs in there, your body will be very satisfied and you won't desire more food. But if you're eating a diet with low quality food, no matter how much you eat, your body is still going to look for more nutrients. So it's going to continue to want more nutrients and more nutrients, then you'll end up overeating and undersleeping. The more you eat, the more sleep you need. The less you eat, the less sleep you require, and the better chance you're going to get it. For each person, the amount of sleep they need is going to be different, but I can tell you, if you can't get up in the morning and fully function because you're too tired, chances are on a regular basis you're not getting the proper amount of sleep. If you get up in the morning and you don't remember where your name is, what your name is or where you are, you definitely didn't get enough amount of sleep. And you want to make sure you're getting enough sleep, and it's just, if you're having nightmares, you're not getting enough sleep. If you're getting enough sleep, life is grand. I ask people, how do you know what you're doing is working for you? And people tell me two of the most dangerous words in the English language. I feel. If you're determining if what you're doing is working for you based on how you feel, this is a dangerous thing. Why? Because of stimulation, people can feel great but creating a big problem in their body. We can't just go by how we feel. We have to go by the quality of our sleep, our digestion, and how many times we're going to the bathroom versus how many times we're eating. How we feel should be one of the factors, but not the only one. And then finally, our blood work. Making sure we have the right amount of nutrients we need. We don't have deficiencies in our body. This is what's going to help determine if what we're doing is working for us, not just by how we feel. I know people that smoke crack that feel good when they're high from that, but it doesn't mean they're healthy. So we can't just go by how we feel. There has to be other things to determine that. And when you get the proper amount of sleep, is a good sign that things are moving in the right way. So the key is, again, eating the foods that are going to give the body the most while using the least amount of energy to get rid of them. And I could tell you something like a juicer. A juicer is a great sign of how the body should work. If you put celery or spinach or an apple in a juicer, what happens? It goes through there, very simple. It gets rid of what it needs, and it pulls out the juice of what you need. It doesn't have to work very difficult. It's a great example of how it should be with our food. The body is the world's greatest juicer if you give it what it's supposed to use. The foods with the most liquid in them, that are a fruit or vegetable, will give the body what it needs without using a lot of work and get rid of what it doesn't need. That's a properly working body. It's like a good juicer. What happens if you stick a piece of bread in a juicer? What happens if you stick a chicken leg in a juicer?
Break it.
Exactly. Much quicker this juice is going to break. And your body is the same way. Just because you can do something and have gotten away with it for this long isn't an excuse and shouldn't be a reason to keep doing it when you find out it's not good for you. It's time to make a change and start eating the foods that are ideal. The formula for health is this: power minus obstruction equals vitality. Do you want me to say it again?
Yeah.
It again. Power minus obstruction equals vitality. Everyone say that.
Power minus obstruction equals vitality.
That's what it is. And basically, the more energy, power, whatever you want to call it, your body has to get rid of the things that are creating it from doing those things is going to determine your state of health. Why do some people get sick at different stages of their life versus others? It comes down to this. We're born with a healthy, clean plate, or whatever you want to call it, place, for most of us. Even if we have inherited weaknesses, we're still born relatively clean. And these things can't go in the same direction. You have power and you have obstruction. And when one starts rising, one starts diminishing. As long as you have enough power to get rid of the obstruction, you're always going to be in some stage of health. Once the obstruction becomes too much for the power to do anything, you start experiencing the beginning signs of disease, laziness and constipation. If you don't identify that or do anything about it, it keeps getting worse and worse and worse. Now you find yourself with a later stage of disease, very little power to get rid of it, and then what do? We go to a doctor. And instead of a doctor just saying eliminate the obstruction and you can turn things around, they give you drugs and make it even worse. We want to make sure we have enough energy to get rid of whatever problem we're creating. And it really all comes down to the quality of sleep we're getting. Because that's where healing takes place. You don't have to spend a lot of money on all these machines and all these places around the world to learn how to heal. You got to teach your body to get the proper amount of sleep that it needs and let it do the healing that our wonderful Creator designed it to do naturally. That is the best healer. So we need to create an environment where we can get the proper amount of good quality sleep. And when we do that, the body is going to start healing. Resting and not overworking. So we all have cell phones today. What happens when you go to sleep if you forget to plug your cell phone in? You wake up in the morning and it's not fully charged. Sometimes it's dead. So you can look at one level, your body is like a cell phone. If you do not have the full amount of energy that it was designed to have, it's not going to last as long. So when you're plugging that cell phone in, that's like getting a proper amount of sleep. There's all excuses out there. I have insomnia, or I don't have enough time, or this is wrong, or that's wrong. And then you tie in the emotional, spiritual aspect of it, and people could lay in bed all night and they have the time, they just don't fall asleep. You need to create an environment to give yourself the proper amount of sleep, and then you'll understand power minus obstruction equals vitality. The foods that use the least amount of energy while getting the nutrients they need will put your body in a position to get the proper amount of sleep it needs. There are other things besides just diet that are in my book and we could discuss, such as the environment of the room, sleeping with a window open, having a fan on at nighttime, making sure there's not electronics right next to your bed or near your head or anything like that. One of the most dangerous things people do on a regular basis is have their cell phones next to their head when they go to sleep. Please put it in airplane mode. Put it, most of you don't know what it is. Whenever you're carrying this phone around you, or whenever it's near your bed at nighttime, put it in airplane mode, and that'll help you tremendously. During the recent hurricane we had last year, or 2 years ago, whenever it was, I got the best sleep of my life because all the Wi-Fi and everything else was off. If you could shut the Wi-Fi off in your house before you go to sleep and do all that, you're going to be much better off. Creating the best environment possible in your room or wherever it is you sleep. Sleeping outside is even better than sleeping inside. You know, I try to explain that to people. People get worried. They say, that's not healthy, that's homeless. I said, no, it's a healthy thing. Until I slept outside, I never knew what a true night's sleep was. I mean, this was amazing the first time I did this. And I got so excited. There was a time in my life I was sleeping outside all the time, loving it. But then I had to stop one night because I was in Reno, Nevada. Have you heard this story?
No.
I was in Reno, Nevada, and I was about to do a very big lecture one day. Believe it or not, there were more people that were going to be there than here tonight. And I was about to do this lecture, and I wanted to get the best night's sleep, and I had already mastered sleeping outside. But I hadn't mastered sleeping outside in the cold weather. So somebody told me a trick. They said if you sleep naked inside the sleeping bag, it keeps the warmth in the bag, so it's better for you. So I heard about that, and I was in Nevada, and I was ready to sleep outside, and I got my sleeping bag, and the lady of the house said, you shouldn't sleep out there. I said, why not? She said, it's very dangerous. I said, I'm from New York. This can't be too dangerous. It's this big empty field. She said, we have mountain lions. And I said, what are the chances of a mountain lion? It's going to bother me sleeping there on the top of a mountain outside in the middle of the night. So just in case, I took myself home. And I got out there in the middle of the night, and it was late at night, and I opened up my sleeping bag, I got naked, and I got inside.
Oh boy.
And then I heard something, and I looked up, and there was a mountain lion sitting, looking at me, staring at me. And I was like, this isn't good. So my first instinct was to slowly get on my cell phone and like call up the house or someone, but I was so far away, it wasn't in range, and I was like, oh, great. So I didn't know what to do. I certainly wasn't going to start running in the middle of the night naked, trying to outrun this mountain lion. So I just, this is where the power of prayer comes in very handy. I just put the sleeping bag over my head. Every time I looked up, it was just sitting there looking at me. I don't know what to do. So I just put the sleeping bag over my head, and I went to sleep, and I woke up in the morning, and it wasn't a mountain lion, it was a garbage can with two things that looked just like ears, and there was a hose at the end of it that looked just like a tail. It looked just like a tail. And I did not get a good night's sleep, and I came in the house, and they said, how'd you sleep? And I said, just throw away your garbage next time. I don't think I've been that tired in a long time. So sleeping outside is great, just make sure you know the neighborhood first. Yes, yes. And but it's really important to have your windows open, to sleep outside if you can, and just create a good environment when you sleep, the right type of situation. Eating the best foods possible, and also I found out from reading the world's greatest health book, the Bible, and I wrote a book called Health According to the Scriptures, and I have one CD left of it here, but I have more books on my website of it. But eating the food at the appropriate time. The Bible just doesn't say in Genesis 1:29 that fruits and vegetables are the best foods for us, and the only foods for us, where they say that's the food for man. But also, it says about when we eat our food, and it says not to eat at nighttime. Tonight it's okay, but in general, it says do not eat at nighttime. And every belief system around the world that has studied the human body is in agreement that the organs work with different times, and the rhythm, and the moon, and the water, and everything else all works together. And nighttime is a time for our body to be detoxifying and healing and sleeping, not digestion of food. We need to go to sleep on an empty stomach. Insomnia, obesity, and every other type of disease, the rates of disease can be cut in half if people simply didn't eat late at night. Somebody says, well, tell me in the Bible where it says we shouldn't eat late at night. How many of you read the Bible? Have you seen that in there? I say, if our Creator wanted us to eat late at night, He would have made fruits and vegetables glow in the dark. He didn't. Before there was all this artificial electricity, we were getting ready for sleep at nighttime. We weren't going to go to the fruit tree and pick some fruit. We need to get back on schedule and understand the ideal time to eat, and understand there's a direct connection between sunlight and digestion, and also the moon being out and the cleansing waters and healing the body. A direct connection to all of this that I discuss about in my book, The Daylight Diet. So, what causes overeating? From a physical standpoint, eating the low quality foods. We're never getting the nutrients for ourselves, and our body is not satisfied. What causes eating late at night? One of the most dangerous things in our house that causes it, people to eat late at night, and that's the TV set or the TV programming. Get rid of your TV sets and your health will change for the better. Nobody eats late at night. If you're watching TV late at night, there's food in your hand.
What makes?
I'm going to take questions in a moment, but there's a reason why they call it programming. Because we're programmed, and the advertisers spend their whole lives and careers figuring out how we can make these people sick so we can sell them drugs to get better. And one of the ways they're doing it is with food, and the time we're eating it very late at night. There's a connection there. When we get off the basic pattern of when we should be awake and when we should be sleeping, we get off the eating pattern. Now there's McDonald's that's open 24 hours. Who's eating McDonald's at 3 o'clock in the morning? A lot of people. That's why they're open. So we need to break that pattern and get rid of your TV sets. It's one of the greatest things you could do. I have a rule about it. Unless I'm on TV, don't watch it. It's one of the worst boxes you can have in your house. Now let me give you a couple of practical things you could do before we take a couple of questions. Because I know Jeff's ready to dance and sing, right? Or sing and dance, whatever order you want it in. So there's a couple of practical things you could do. Number one thing you could do for your house is, if anyone here has a microwave oven, get rid of it. Get rid of your microwave oven. It is one of the most deadly things in your house. I tell people, if a TV box is so bad and a microwave so bad, what's the worst thing you could eat? A TV microwave dinner. Microwave TV dinner. It is absolutely so bad. Get rid of those two boxes quickly, or you'll end up way sooner than you should be in a third box. So we don't want these boxes in our house. Now, replace the microwave oven with a juicer. How many people use a juicer or have a juicer? How many of you use it? That's the problem. We have to use it and not let it collect dust. I always say, what does the Bible and a juicer have in common?
Dust.
Most houses have one, but they just collect dust. If you don't use them, they're not going to work.
Does the Vitamix count? I use my Vitamix.
It's not a juicer, but it's still a great
But
thing
you
to
got the
replace
plastic
your
in there.
replace your microwave oven with a Vitamix or a juicer. That's great. But get those fresh fruits and vegetables in your body. 75% of your diet should be fruits and vegetables in a raw form. It's not difficult. You have a circle. 3/4 of that circle should be some type of raw fruit or vegetable, and eat that first before you eat the processed cooked food, whatever it is you're deciding to eat. If you do more than 75%, great, but at least 75% should be raw, bright, fresh, organic fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds, and don't eat late at night, and you'll be doing okay. The last thing I want to mention is getting your blood checked to make sure you're okay. Don't just go by how you feel. If you have a deficiency, try to find the best place to get a nutrients food, and if you can't, look at supplements as a short-term solution to a long-term problem until we could figure out why we're not getting these nutrients, and help your body help itself and get it what it needs, whether it be through a supplement or through the food, and help your body do that. So we need to eliminate these things that are creating the problem. We need to make sure we create an environment to give our body the amount of sleep it needs, and we need to enjoy life and thrive. And we all have the opportunity to do that. So remember the formula for health: power minus obstruction equals vitality. And I have some material here to help you remember those things if you want to come look at it in a little while. But there is a big problem going on, and just like I said when we started today, most people believe that what they're doing is working, and it's working for them, but it's really not. I'm going to give you some facts right now to think about, and then I'll take some questions. By the way, if somebody has a piece of paper and you can pass it around so I can get your emails, and I'll send you more information after this. Does somebody have a square they could spare?
A what?
A piece of paper.
I do.
Thank you.
Clipboard right there.
Jeff's going to pass around a piece of paper. If I can have your emails, I'll send you more information. So here's some things to consist of. How many of you exercise on a regular basis?
Does farming count?
Farming
don't
is
get
one of
my
the
heart
best
rate
forms
going,
of
but-
exercise. Exercise is one of the most important things. Movement is exercise. We need to make sure we're moving every single day. It's so important. I'm going to tell you a test to tell if you're healthy or not healthy. I'm not calling anyone out particularly here. I'm just saying this. When you go home tonight, and this isn't to make you feel bad, this is to make you understand reality. When you go home tonight, take off all your clothes and stand in front of your bathroom mirror or whatever mirror sideways. If your gut is sticking out more than your chest, you need to make some serious changes in your life. It's the bottom line. And you can. It might be just from being bloated. It might be from being overweight. But your gut is where disease is going to start to brew up and create many different problems, these beginning signs of disease. We need to make sure we take care of this problem. And that's a great example to know what is going on. Every single human body has the opportunity, barring some type of physical accident that somebody might have, where their gut should not stick out more than their chest. So we have that opportunity, and that's a great way to test it out. And I have people that I told that to, and they contact me months later and they say, it worked, and this worked, and I did this, and it worked. And even, if you're eating a vegetarian diet or vegan diet, you can be overeating, and it can still create some problems. So go home and start testing that out and seeing differences, and you will see the difference. So another big problem people have today is eating too much sugar, of course, processed sugar. This is a green stevia. This is probably one of the #1 bestsellers on my website, and that's why I wanted to bring it here. White stevia does not have the medicinal properties to it. Stevia is not only a great sweetener, but it has the medicinal properties to it. There are so many to that. So this is a pure white stevia that we have on the website, and I brought some of it here tonight if you want to check that out. And I have some other snacks and things that are healthy, but not at nighttime. They're healthy in the daytime. So when you go home tonight, don't turn the TV on, get a snack and sit in front of the TV and think about what I said. No. Create a nice environment in your room to go to sleep, and then maybe think about what I said, and don't eat late at night. So these are some things that I know people have a tough time giving up, but you can make these changes. Maybe grab one of my books or DVDs and go home and you can check it out on the computer because you don't have a TV anymore because you're going to throw that out. And you can read one of my books, which is even better than watching it on TV or a computer. And that's it. So you can get in touch with me at my website. My main website is healthwatchman.com. If the email's going around, I'll keep in touch with you that way. I do videos every day pretty much on one topic or another. And I also do a live Q&A every Wednesday night. So if you get on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, you can see my live Q&A I do every Wednesday night. If you think of a question or you have a comment, you can reach me under my videos, but that's one of the best places to reach me. And if you are interested in learning more about the Bible, I have a whole bunch of videos on that topic as well, as related to health and healing and every other aspect as well. So if you have some questions now, I know you had so many questions you were just waiting to get out. So
No, what's your time to eat? What's the latest you eat?
That's what I was gonna ask. Cause it changes, right? It's like in the summer, it gets dark at 8 something. In
that's
the
a
winter, it
great
gets dark
question.
at,
That's a
like,
great
6.
question. So when you get this book, you'll get your answer.
Oh.
There's different stages to eating a daylight diet. The average person that's used to eating at midnight is not automatically going to stop eating at 7 o'clock and think, oh, I could do this with no problem, because it's not because we eat late at night because we're hungry. It's a habit hunger. We're just in a habit of eating late at night. And I tell people, well, if you eat earlier, you won't be hungry so late at night. But people are sleeping early because they're eating late at night and they're not getting to sleep so late at night. Then they get up later in the afternoon and they're hungry at night. So we got to break that
Did they get it up here?
break that pattern.
Oh, they didn't
So-
get it up here. Oh, sorry.
In the summertime, the days last longer, but the foods that are naturally we should be eating locally are lighter, and we can eat a little bit more. In the wintertime, the foods are heavier that we eat, but the days are shorter, so we'll be eating less. Ultimately, we want to get to a point where, for the most part, it might not be every day or every occasion, but for the most part, we're not eating when it's dark outside.
Right.
That's all our ultimate goal, but it might take years to get there. Just make sure, go to sleep. The longer you wait before going to sleep and eating would be a great start. And not eating your heaviest meal at the end of the day. Maybe earlier in the day eating your heavier meal. At the end of the day eating something very light, if anything at all. Try to go to sleep on an empty stomach. Okay? Yes.
What kind of products do you have here that you want to show us? Because it looks like you
Stevia,
have
besides
food.
stevia.
Well, I have my
Stevia.
stevia. I have my two of my several books. I have the Raw Life and also the Daylight Diet. And then I also have a few copies left of the Formula for Health, which I spoke about. This book is one of the books that helped me write the Daylight Diet, besides the Bible. It talks about people's stomach. It's from the late 1800s. And I wrote the foreword for this book, obviously not in the late 1800s, but later on when I reprinted it. And this is written by Dale Lewis, who was a very prominent figure in U.S. history. He was one of the people in charge of the temperance movement. And a great book, not about what we should eat, but when we should eat. Excellent. And I have some lectures here on the Daylight Diet about when we should eat and when we should not eat, and the history of that. I have some charts here of lifestyle charts, food combining charts, and how to store good charts. Yeah, so these charts are here. And then I brought some snacks, some of my favorite little crackers that you can have as a healthy version if you want to try to get rid of bread and not eat bread. These are raw crackers. And that's just a great little snack. There's different types of flavors. And then cashews. A lot of people buy cashews in the store. They're not the ideal nut to consume, cashews. However, people just love them. And the cashews in the store are not raw. These are. So there's a difference. Even if they say they're raw, they're not. But these are raw cashews. So these are just some of the things I have, and everything else I have is on my website at rawlife.com. And I'll pass out some of these. Did everyone sign the email list?
Yes.
It's going around.
Okay. I'll pass out some of these cards here. You can get in touch with me with my information here. And
You
here's
still
some
have a
more.
lot of
Just
stuff
pass
on your
them back.
website, right? Like juicers and all kinds of stuff?
Yeah, I have a lot of different stuff on it.
Rawlife.com?
Yeah, my main website is healthwatchman.com, and from there you can go to all my other sites. My web store is rawlife.com. My member website, which is $5.95 a month, is rawlifehealthshow.com, and that's where all my videos are. I have over 2,000 videos on here, including recipes of just eating healthy and so on.
2,000
And then more than 2,000. And then I have my Bible channel that has videos on those topics as well. So, and
Yeah.
remember, health is more than just diet alone. From our emotional standpoint, from our spiritual standpoint, from everything, from our relationships, from the food we eat, the people we're spending time with, all of this will produce health or disease. So we want to eliminate the disease. That's one of the keys. Everyone say it again, eliminate.
Eliminate.
With enthusiasm.
With enthusiasm, yes. Okay, do we have another question?
Did you have a question?
She just wanted to make a funny comment. This is
That
my
was your funny
favorite.
comment. I like funny comments.
The first time you said eliminate and you wanted us all to repeat it, when we said it like enthusiastically, I realized how much it sounded like lemonade. And I know no one heard me, but I said lemonade.
Never gonna drink lemonade again and think of it the same way.
We had lemonade tonight.
And then when you were
Lemonade. Lemonade.
and then when you were talking about the age difference on
The oldest people.
the oldest people, I heard about a book character, yes, but he said there was somewhere in the book where it said he was 150, give or take a few years. So.
Dumbledore.
Dumbledore. Methuselah in the Bible is 969 years old. Yeah.
How long was his beard, would you guess?
Oh, it was long. Gillette wasn't around back then, so it must have been real long. Yes.
I read in some scientific magazine that babies born now will most live till 125.
20.
Well, there's.
Age 125 on that. So.
Well, I mean, you know, if that's not if they didn't drug it up when their babies were born, they would live even longer. Yeah.
With kids, for example, when they have active life like gymnastics, ballet, 3 hours of gymnastics, you know, how is that with the food and eating at night and you know?
Late from practice.
Yeah.
Is that so good?
Well, you have to create the schedule that works best for your situation and create your schedule. But the ideal foods for the children to eat are the raw fruits and vegetables. Now, it's up to the parent to make it taste good enough where they'll want to eat that. And you could do that. There's so many delicious snacks and ways to make this food. And remember, it doesn't have to be 100%, but you know, if they're going to eat the apple pie, they got to eat the apples first. Got to teach them the right way. You know.
What kind of exercise do you say about movement? So what do you
The best exercise for each person is the one that they're going to do.
Yeah.
And for me, I love to go to the gym. I love to jump rope and do exercise like that. Some people like to jog. Some people like to swim. And some people like to rebound. Whatever you're going to do is the best one for you. Some people play tennis. Somebody said they're a farmer. That's a lot of work.
I don't ever get my heart racing though, you know what I mean?
Well, that's
No
a cardiovascular exercise.
but I'm
That's a different
walking
type of
around
exercise.
and Heavy stuff and using forks.
That's one, but there are different aspects of exercise, and you should try to get your heart up at some point. Yeah. Yes. What's your question, Isabella?
How hard is being a herbivore?
What?
How hard is being a herbivore?
Yeah, she says instead of vegan, she says herbivore instead of carnivore.
Oh, an herbivore. Yeah, it's not that difficult in today's world because there's so many options we can eat without eating animals. Yes. Look at my website. I have a bunch of options out there.
Okay.
And be careful, guys, because the vegetarian alternatives to meat are not healthy. So,
or Beyond Meat,
yeah.
the hamburgers that make Beyond Meat and
You want me to
stuff.
say it again?
Yeah.
It again. The vegetarian alternatives to meat are not usually healthy. So the healthiest foods for your body are fruits and vegetables, and there's many different ways you can make them to taste like a vegetarian alternative. But when you eat a lot of the things with the soy and wheat gluten and all of this stuff, and it's not the ideal foods for the body. So don't think, well, I'm a vegetarian, so I'm eating healthy. You know, so. Another question? Okay, yes.
You want to talk about fruit or fasting? Maybe it's fruit with the sugar, and it's fasting good.
Yeah, fasting is great, or eating less. It's called intermittent fasting, which is something I practice and I recommend people do. You don't have to eat 3 meals a day, and you don't have to eat every day. So you want to practice having as much time between your meals as possible, not eating a bunch of small meals, just having your meal time and not eating as much. Then there's complete fasting on longer term, which is great for healing the body. And fruit, if somebody has a disease that's related to sugar, like cancer or diabetes or something else, you might want to cut back or cut out the fruit while you're healing. But besides that, fruit is a great food, and you just got to make sure if you are going to eat some fruit that you're doing enough exercise to burn off the sugar. You can't have a desk job and eat a bunch of fruit and not expect to have issues. So if you're exercising enough, you can eat the sugar. But if you have an illness that's related to it, you want to cut back on it. Yes?
You said that something that when you cut a carrot, they look like 2 eyes, right?
Yes.
What do cashews look like? To me, they look like smiles.
Oh, that's a great one, because most people smile when they eat it. Smiles and ears, that's great. Very good. But they could look like a sad face if you turn it upside down too, right?
Cashews look like smiles.
Yes. Yes, but that's great, yeah.
They're so addictive.
And if anyone buys these cashews, I'll be smiling. Thank you, that's a very good observation. Yes?
What do you know about adrenal fatigue?
It's more common today than most people realize, and
What is?
a good adrenal fatigue.
Oh.
Some people sometimes they use the name Epstein-Barr, but basically it's adrenal fatigue. And if you take the right amount of herbs, and it really comes down to the sleep, and diet has a lot to do with it. But nobody that has adrenal fatigue is getting a proper amount of sleep that they need. That's number one. Then there's usually some type of food that's creating that lack of sleep. Caffeine is just terrible, whether it's in chocolate or whether it's in coffee, whatever. Coffee is one of the worst drugs out there today, and chocolate is not healthy either. It's very common today, so you do need some drugs to heal, not drugs, some herbs to heal. From the decaffeinated isn't any better because they put drugs in it to decaffeinate it. So there's no such thing as healthy coffee. It's an oxymoron.
What about tea?
If it doesn't have caffeine naturally, then it's okay. An herbal tea like peppermint tea, fine. But green tea, even though it has antioxidants, is not healthy because it has caffeine. And adrenal fatigue is so common today. So I actually suffered from adrenal fatigue when I was younger, and there's before pictures in my book. I used to box when I was younger, and I have a picture where it looks like I have 2 black eyes. And it wasn't from boxing. I wasn't that bad. It was from just having adrenal fatigue and just suffering from these things, but changing my diet and lifestyle around helped that.
What about moringa?
Moringa is excellent in any form. Moringa is great.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yes. All right, any other questions before Jeff starts to sing and dance?
Oh, boy.
Jeff had a raffle to do, right?
We have a raffle to do.
Okay.
I was thinking, yeah.
I'm gonna put one of my books in a raffle, so I'm gonna raffle off one of my books.
Well, okay, which one?
And we'll raffle off
The
this.
daylight.
Okay, great.
The daylight one.
They're saying the daylight.
I know what they're saying, but that's what I'm doing. Okay. And then the other thing is, and then what else? Oh, so.
Crackers. It wasn't crackers.
He wants you to buy.
Of course.
Okay. And if anyone wants to get anything afterwards, we take cash, credit, check, or anything like that. Did everyone sign the email list that went around? Did everyone sign the email list?
Yes.
Okay. At some point, bring it up here, and I'll thank you. Okay.
Okay, so here's what I think. Let's keep this table open now, and let's have a few volunteers. Yes? Oh yes, we're gonna hear from John. Yes. Why don't you come on up here and just a quick message. Then what we're gonna do is move the chairs out of sight, out of mind. Get the dance floor open, and then DJ Miguel, we're gonna start our karaoke and dancing. But listen up, it's very
Why don't
important.
we do it around?
Ladies and gentlemen, a few of us here this evening are members, in addition to this group of the Miami-Dade Democratic Environmental Caucus. And I have here some cards. If you're interested, you can fill in whether you'd like to be placed on a contact list about issues and events that relate to the environment, of which, by the way, we are going to be deeply, deeply affected. Very, very, not so terribly long ago, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change issued a lengthy report, which this is simply a summary, and basically it boils down to this. The Earth is going to be in very, very serious trouble unless we begin doing something very, very quickly. Climate change, global warming, rising tides are here. Believe it or not, 12 years ago, Time magazine came out with this as a cover story, and it said, "Be worried, be very worried." And it was basically that climate change isn't some vague future problem. It's really already damaging the planet at an alarming rate. Since 1970, I think 60% of the vertebrate species that are on the planet have become extinct. In case you don't know it, Miami Beach, South Florida in general, is ground zero for climate change, rising waters. And there are things which can be done. One of the things the caucus is trying to do is develop some expertise in crafting of positions on critical environmental issues, policies, and regulations. We have the ability, if we want, to try to influence, politicians to move in what we would feel is the right direction. We can identify, evaluate, and endorse candidates who are champions of environmental solutions. We can mobilize public voting and candidates and try to get officials elected to take action for this cause. Now, if any one of you are interested in being placed on a contact list just to learn more about the issues and the events that are going on in the South Florida community, you can fill this in. If you're also interested in joining the Democratic Environmental Caucus, you may also indicate that. I'm not collecting money. I'm just going to hand these cards out. If you want, I'll give you a pen, fill it out, give it back to me, and I'll pass it on. And if you don't want to involve yourself with the caucus, but you say, well, I'd like to donate something, yeah, you can do that, but you're not going to give me anything. They'll contact you if you're so interested. So if anyone is interested, if you just raise your hand, I'll give you a card and a pen. You can fill it out. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry.
You need more pens, Johnny?
I have a whole bunch. Okay, you want to fill one out too?
She wants to fill out a card. It's Bella, you're gonna